What is good, all of our listeners and viewers? Welcome to another episode of Games and Groceries. My name is Adam.
And I'm Liz.
And it's officially flu season. Let's go! We are here with episode 86, and we're going to be talking about why game developers aren't actually creeps. It's crazy, I know, but we're going to talk about it. But first, let's talk about some other segments, including that I'm recovering from the flu, which is, I don't know if I was loud enough, like as usual, in my...
Well, I guess we'll find out in post.
Yeah, I usually drink Bai, but I love Powerade Zero Sugar. Like, I felt...
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored. Yeah, but no, I just felt fatigued. Like this past week, I really wanted to get... Because, you know, if you listen to our other podcast about how to chip away your backlog, I told you that I have a backlog to go through this year. And I wanted to chip away more at Witcher 3. And I couldn't because I was dying.
Yeah. I had to stay home just to take care of him.
Yeah. So now I'm just...
Luckily, I can work from home.
So now I'm just like super fatigued, but I'm just like keeping up the energy, especially at work.
Hence the electrolytes.
Mm-hmm. Liz, how you doing? How you doing?
I'm good. It's been a weird week.
It has.
Because you were sick, but first we had food poisoning.
I don't think mine was food poisoning. I think mine was just like the beginning.
I don't know what mine was. I always have stomach troubles.
Yeah, like yours was normal.
I had to leave work early, which I haven't had to do in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I had to leave work early because my stomach was bothering me. Only about an hour early, but still. I had to leave work early.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had a bug or something. I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
And then you progressively got the flu. And so Thursday, I stayed home from work and worked from home for the first time. That was interesting.
Yeah, because
really nice.
I couldn't do a thing.
So I stayed home so I could take care of the dog and take care of him so that he didn't have to take care of the dog because we don't have a yard, so we can't just like let him out. We have to take him on a leash. So I stayed home, did that, and then I went to work today. It was just a very strange week. Yeah. And it was really weird because I didn't catch your flu.
No.
Which truly means that New York was poison to my immune system because I don't get sick. I don't usually catch colds or flus when other people have them. But when we were in New York, if Adam got the flu, I got the flu next. And so the fact that I didn't catch it means that New York was just the devil to my immune system.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we're not in New York anymore.
Also, a quick update about work. Last week I shared that somebody mistaken me for the owner.
Yes.
So I did go back to work today because your boy is paid hourly and doesn't want to work, less. But so once again, I am fatigued today. Like, I'm still sick and I still need a bed rest. But again,
but he also needs money.
Prior to my last statement, your boy works hourly. I'm going, but I was fatigued. I'm still dressed like a glorified McDonald's employee. And once again, I'm at the host station, and I'm introducing them to the baked goods. You're like, oh, our cookies, and they're like, oh, is this your place? What? Like, I look like a zombie right now with like a cap on. If I
owned this place, I would not be here today.
Yeah. How do I look like the owner? Is it because I'm not a high schooler?
Maybe it's just that.
Maybe it's because my age.
Yeah, it might be just be your age that you look older. You look old enough to own the place.
I guess so, but like
you're close to the owner's age.
I am, but it's just kind of like no.
No, I just don't have a salary job. This is where I work.
Yeah, it's just who I am.
Sorry to disappoint.
But yeah, once again, I was mistaken for the owner. I was like, nope. But so
you just look that nice.
Yeah, that's not real. So before we get into our first segment, we want to remind all of you that we're on social media. We're on Twitter at Gaming Groceries, or you can follow us individually. I'm at Ace the Grocer.
And I'm at Journey First.
And you can also follow us on Instagram, Games and Groceries, all one word. And you can find us on Facebook, the toxic wasteland of Facebook. You can find us there. And finally, not finally, but you can check out our website, gamesandgroceries.com, where you can listen to all of the podcasts from the website and find out where you can listen to the audio versions of the podcast, as well as read some articles that I've written in the past. And finally, if you haven't already, if you're watching this on YouTube, definitely hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so that you know when all these podcasts come out, as well as, joining us human beings here on the Human Being channel. Oh, did I say human beings? I meant Games and Groceries, the place for human beings. So definitely hit that subscribe button if you haven't already so that you know. And we've got some plans for 2020 we're going to be revealing pretty soon. But yeah, best way to find out about that is hitting that subscribe button on YouTube. Do it. All right, so let's just go. I'm not going to do it the way I usually do it because I can't.
That'll probably burst your brain.
Yeah. All right, I'm just going to do it regular. We're going to go into our first segment.
Movie Minutes.
Movie Minutes is a segment that we talk about the movies that we saw in the past week, whether it be on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, or in theaters, or Disney Plus, and we like to recommend it, or we don't recommend it. Yeah, that transition was like the least energy I've ever given, but I'm going to keep it here, folks. Keeping the energy up. But we're going to be talking about something that's on Hulu exclusively, that I missed in the past year, and I've heard some good things about. The movie is called Booksmart. So, Liz, opening thoughts.
First, I actually wanted to see this in theaters, but we never got around to it. But it was a good movie.
Oopsies.
We were a little worried when it first said that it was we heard that it was a little bit of raunchy humor. But it honestly, and I'm not a big fan of raunchy, but this wasn't that bad. No. Like, it was still enjoyable. And people are probably going to hate me for this, but I really hated Bridesmaids. And that is the kind of raunchy that I just can't do. Unnecessarily raunchy. Yeah. Whereas this, it fit the conversation. Yeah. And it wasn't too much. Like, they didn't take it too far. Yeah. And, but I thought it was a good movie. It was cute. I liked the story. They didn't go with the typical way the story could go. Or the typical way the story would be, like, why it was happening. So I liked it. Yeah.
So my first note, and I always have 3 notes whenever I look at some movies. My first note is that within the first 15 minutes, the plot explanation, it's just so well written, well delivered, and well directed that you know exactly where this is going to go, but in kind of like a good way. You see movie explanations like, oh, I know where this movie's going, but now you know where the direction is going. Like within the first 15 minutes, the director, by the way, Olivia Wilde, and I believe this was her
directorial debut.
I was going to say her directorial, like within the first 15 minutes, Olivia Wilde says like, this is where we're going. This is the direction.
This is why.
This is why. And I'm pretty sure this is in like the description, but 2 girls who are, oh, look at that, book smart. They spent all 4 years of their high school not partying, not having any fun, just focusing on their studies, getting grades like like A+, 4.0s. Yeah. And they find out that the partiers in their senior year, last day of school in senior year, all the party kids are all going to like Stanford and
the
Harvard,
same schools that
Georgetown.
These 2 got into.
Yeah. And they partied, they had a life while also being academic, and they feel like they've wasted it. And now the movie is like, they need to fit 4 years of fun into one night. And I thought that was just so well written and delivered the way it was explained in the first 15 minutes.
The girls were so good in their roles.
Yes.
And one of the girls is the youngest daughter from Last Man Standing. Oh, okay. And I really like her as an actress. Like, I like her in Last Man Standing. I like her in this. She's just got that like quirkiness about her that I like in actresses. Yeah. So I was happy to see her in this movie. Like, she was good in her role. It was just the girls did a really good job in their roles. Yeah. They seemed to really have a good chemistry on screen.
And that's the thing. It's that, like you said, I thought the chemistry between them was fantastic.
Like, they look like the way they acted, you would think they're best friends in real life because it reminds you of you and your best friend. Even if you don't do the same things, just their like inside stuff is like, it's like, oh, it's like me and my best friend.
Yeah. Now, this goes into my second note, and I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of middling for me, which is why it's my second note. The movie, okay, don't get me wrong here. Again, this is like middling. This isn't a bad thing. It's not really super bad. But this movie, this movie is basically a female super bad. And what I mean by that is that if you've watched Superbad, like I did in theaters twice when it came out in 2007 or 2008, I can't remember.
I have no idea.
It kind of follows the same, not tropes. I don't want to say tropes, but it kind of follows the same beats as Superbad did. And I don't think it was a bad thing. It just, you could tell Olivia Wilde has seen Superbad, not only has seen it, but loved it.
Yeah.
And has took inspiration from it. And I think that could bother some people, or it could be like, wow, this is Superbad. And Superbad was really good. So I don't know how some people would feel about that, but I think it more took inspiration from the movie than it was a complete ripoff.
Because you were mentioning that, and I was like, I've never seen Superbad, so I just like this movie.
Yeah, I remember being a high schooler when that movie came out, and just my mind just...
I never saw it. I don't think I wanted to see it in high school either.
Yeah. But, take that as you mean it. It's not really like anything against the movie. I just want you to know that, like, in my opinion, it definitely takes inspiration from Superbad.
Yeah. The dog needs help.
Oh my goodness. Lucky.
He was like sizing up the chair, but like, I can't get on that.
My goodness.
His pillows were in the way. Our dog is spoiled.
So let me go into my final note, because this is my one gripe. And I think this is my personal, because you didn't mind this.
No.
So I think that the movie is beautifully set up. The second act is fantastic. It's funny. If you like Superbad, you're going to really like this movie. The third act, though, for some reason, Olivia Wilde just goes, like she skirts into the exit, and the movie changes tones drastically. And what I appreciate about Superbad is that, the tone stays the same throughout the movie, basically. This one, it was like another high school comedy, but then it turns the wheels into something dramatic and almost like a teen drama. And then it goes back into a teen comedy. And I don't know, it kind of like the third act doesn't really stay on track, and it kind of bothered me a little bit.
Yeah.
But you didn't mind it.
No, I think the conflict in the movie, I thought that was done. I loved that scene.
Yeah.
I thought that was amazing.
I thought that it was well handled.
I liked it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't mind
the conflict, I mean.
Yeah, I didn't mind the last part of the movie. I mean, thinking back, it might have been a little rushed, but watching it, I wasn't like, oh, this is awkward.
I don't think it was awkward. It's just to me that, like, why?
Yeah.
Like, I felt...
You also analyze movies more closely than I do.
Yeah. And I watched Chris Stuckman's review of this afterwards, and, he even said that, like, the movie kind of relies on music too much, and I like that. I partially agree, but it was really a third act changing tones and then changing back to the other tone. And I was just kind of like, why? But, that's just my personal preference. Liz didn't mind that. So take that with a grain of salt.
Like, I loved that it depended a lot on music.
And I just was a little, But I don't think that really took away from the movie to make it, I don't think it made it super bad at all.
You're too much.
So let's go into our final ratings real quick. What did you give it out of 10?
I gave it a 7.
Okay. Sticking with it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Because I enjoy this movie. I don't know if I would ever go out of my way to watch it again, but if I was with someone and they wanted to go see it or they wanted to watch it, I'd be like, all right, fine. Like, I don't care, but I wouldn't go out of my way to see it again. But I enjoyed it. I definitely don't think it was a waste of time. It was a good movie. It was cute.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, but I don't think it was anything like amazing. Maybe I'd give it an 8. I don't know. Between a 7 and an 8, somewhere in there.
Well, that's what I gave it. I gave it a 7.5. And now in our rating scale, a 7 is it's a decent movie. An 8 is a solid movie. And for Olivia Wilde to come out with her directorial debut, I have to give this right in between a decent and a solid movie. Because again, thinking about it, like, I want to give it an 8.
I know. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, I want to give it an 8.
It is like, when I say that,
It's
like an
right
8
on the edge. It's like a 7.9.
Yeah. I want to give it a generous 7.
Yes.
So probably like a 7.8.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a solid film, but for a directorial debut, I think it was solid.
Yeah.
So you know what? In spite of that, I think because it's a directorial debut from Olivia Wilde, I think this is a solid movie.
Yes.
So I'll give it an 8.
Okay.
Because the direction was clear, the message was clear, nothing about it you felt tricked in. I think, and that's the thing, like, a direction in a movie tells a lot. And this movie, you knew what the direction was, and it stuck to that direction. The tone, that's up to question, but the direction of the movie stayed the same.
Yes.
So I'll give it an 8, a solid movie.
Yeah. And for your thing with Chekhov's gun, she did not bring anything up that was not brought up later.
Solid movie, an 8. So again, this movie's called Booksmart. It's exclusively on Hulu for now. But if you have Hulu, definitely check it out.
Yep.
I think it was okay.
Yeah.
A solid movie.
I enjoyed it.
So I think this brings us, I still can't do my usual transitions.
I do it.
You want to try the way I usually do it? Go
Yeah.
for it.
On to our next segment.
Top 3 Gaming News.
The top 3 gaming news is the game news that we saw in the past week, and we'd like to rank it 3, 2, 1, just to give you a condensed version of what's going on in the games industry. So let's get right into it with our number 3 gaming news, and that is, oh no, oopsie dinkles, another game has been delayed.
It's just that season.
Oh no! And it's Dying Light 2. But what's interesting though is that this is another Square Enix delay. Because if you remember from last week, both Avengers and Final Fantasy VII Remake, Square Enix, delayed. Now, what makes this gaming news is that Dying Light 2 has been delayed indefinitely. Like, it doesn't have a new release date. Whereas Avengers got a release date in September.
Just pushed back.
Yeah, they were just pushed back, and they got new release dates.
Yeah.
And okay, so before I say anything else, I just want to read the statement that the company gave. I believe it was Techland. I think Techland is making this. If I'm wrong, write in the comments down below. Also, write in the comments down below how much you love me. But let's read this statement real quick. To our dedicated community, it was a busy year for us as we continued working on our biggest project to date. We know you are awaiting the game eagerly, and we want to deliver exactly what you promised, or what we promised, what you what you promised. We were initially aiming for a spring 2020 release with Dying Light 2, but unfortunately, we need more development time to fulfill our vision. We will have more detail. Okay, here's important. We will have more details to share in the coming months. We will get back to you as soon as we have more information. We apologize for this unwelcome news. Our priority is to deliver an experience that lives up to our own high standards and to the expectations of you, our fans. Please stay tuned, and thank you to our fans. Blah, 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 blah. Support, patience, and understanding. Blah. Love you, Techland. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. One being, there's information coming. They promised that we will have a lot more details. Now, the other thing is that if you remember the reveal of Dying Light 2, there was a lot of massive promises, including, I don't know if you remember this, but the environments changes based on your actions.
I do vaguely remember that.
Now, when I say that's a big promise, it seems like a big promise, but also Dishonored kind of did that too.
Mm-hmm.
Based on your actions, the environment changed around you. And that was just Arcane Studios. Now, when I say just Arcane is respectful. I have the flu. Forgive me.
His head is sick.
But that's the thing, is that like there's some games that have done this, but the way they described it, it seems pretty big. Now, a lot of people are also saying like, oh, well, it doesn't run well in the Xbox One S, so they're just delaying it for the next generation. And they're kind of saying it like a bad way. Anybody that says that's a bad thing. So I just want to give you a little reminder. Let me get some tea here, some blue Powerade tea.
Ew.
Give me a minute. Anthem. Enough said. No, but Anthem, okay, needed to be delayed, right? It needed to be delayed because the reports are coming out that it was crashing PS4s.
Yeah.
Like we got leaks about it saying that Anthem tests were actually crashing PS4s. People were like, oh, that's not real. Anthem came out. Oh, and what did it do? Oh, it crashed PS4s.
Yeah.
Anthem, people. But so if they're delaying it because it doesn't run well in the Xbox One S and they're waiting for the next gen, let them just do it. Like, really. 2020 is a big enough year already that you're not going to have time to play Dying Light 2 anyway. So if you have to wait until the next generation comes out, so be it.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, what do you think?
I always think delaying a game is better than putting out a broken one.
Oh, like what game?
Like Fallout.
Oh, yeah, Fallout 76.
Like the one you just said.
Anthem.
Yeah, I thought that's what you said, but I wasn't sure.
Here's the T, because I'm not going to say that word.
Yeah, like, or Mass Effect Andromeda.
Yeah, Mass Effect Andromeda.
Like all these games that has come out in the past few years that they just, I say this every time we have a new segment like this. Like they rely so much on today's technology of like, we can put it out half finished and we'll just put a day one patch and then a week patch, like a patch later. And we can just do patches to make it a finished game, you know, after a year of it being out. And I think that's ridiculous because when we were younger, you had to finish the game because guess what? You didn't have the ability to change it after you released it. Once you released it, that was the game, whether it was bad or not. Yeah. And they're like, look, this technology, we can put out a half-finished, broken, crashing game and just fix it later. And we'll get all their money for it. No, that's rude and that's disrespectful to your customers.
Now, one could argue that games are much bigger than back then, but also one could also argue that there's a lot of more corporate pressure to put out a game more than was.
We also pay more for games, though.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, yeah, games are bigger and everything, but we also pay more for them. So why are we paying more for a half-finished game when if we're paying more, we should get the finished game because it is bigger. Yeah. Like, that's why we pay more for it. That's why you should work harder on it. Like, it's your whole job. Your whole job is to give games.
So I think wrapping this segment up, Dying Light, right move.
Good job. Yeah. I'm very proud of any company and developer that wants to delay a game to make it better. If after a delay it still comes out really bad, then we have a problem.
Sure. But
But at least they're trying.
If they are waiting to the next generation, good on them. Yeah. Like, I have nothing more to say about that. Because it might crash the Xbox One S and, wait till the next gen. That's totally fine. So let's move on to our number 2 gaming news. And
oh no.
Rumor alert. So KOTOR could be coming back. Did you enjoy that?
Loved it.
I never get to do that anymore.
Because it's like, so you have to like reach down.
Yeah, now I have to reach.
Whereas before it was just like right there.
So Knights of the Old Republic could be coming back. KOTOR could be coming back as a remake. Kind of, sort of, if you read the article. So KOTOR, which is one of my favorite games of all time. And when I heard this rumor, I'm like, okay, a remake? I'm scared, but okay, let's do this. So this comes from two sources, apparently, two anonymous sources that shared their information. And I want to read the article, which is all these articles are linked down below in the description. So if you want to read the article, definitely go ahead and do it, because it could be wrong. But I want to read this one statement saying, according to one of the sources, the previously mentioned Knights of the Old Republic remake is back in development. My other source added to that saying they felt it wasn't so much a remake, but a quote-unquote sequel of sorts. It would be a Knights of the Old Republic project that would integrate elements from the first two games in order to bring certain things into the current Star Wars canon. Not necessarily a remake so much as a reimagining. So that's pretty cool. And I think from that, from what I can see, we could see almost like a reboot to the series, much like when we saw Assassin's Creed Origins. Mm-hmm. And it was nothing like Assassin's Creed Syndicate, because it was, let's say it together now, a reboot, not a remake, a reboot, or a reimagining. And it could be that. Like what he said, it's a sequel more than a remake.
Yeah.
Any thoughts about this? Because you're a massive Knights of the Old Republic fan. You've played the game.
Oh yeah,
many times. Oh.
So I don't know. Part of it sounds like they don't need they want to make a KOTOR-esque move or game.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like they quite know what they're doing yet. Like, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like they have ideas, but they don't actually know what they're doing right now.
Well, no, I think they do, because this is just the words of the sources.
That's what I mean. Well, yeah, I don't know.
So, I think the sources know what they're doing, but they're being secretive because they're under NDA.
Maybe.
Because the first one says the Knights of the Old Republic, it's actually going together, but the second source is like, well, hold on, it's not necessarily, don't get your hopes up about the remake because it's a sequel.
Okay.
So this isn't from EA.
Yeah.
This is from two anonymous sources, credible sources that they say, but sources nonetheless.
Yeah.
So again, this is a big rumor. I don't think there's much more to say.
Not till we find out more.
Yeah, and my final note about this is that time will tell.
Yeah.
Time will tell. I'm excited for this because I really want to play KOTOR again really bad. And, running it on a Windows 10 PC is a nightmare. And it always corrupts the file, and I hate it. I might have to buy it on my Xbox One because then it'll actually run.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
I just want to play KOTOR again. Windows 10 doesn't let me, but, whatever. But yeah, super exciting news. Now, let's move on to our number one gaming news. Is that Pokemon Go actually does great for the nation of America.
Woohoo!
Because I originally said the world because I misread the article. Well, let me get into it first. Pokemon Go, last year alone in 2019, the live events drove nearly $250 million in tourism revenue.
Woohoo!
$250 million.
That's awesome.
It really is. It's really cool. Now, this is coming from Niantic, and they kind of, shared their numbers a little bit. And that $250 million was over over 3 cities.
That's not a lot.
Well, that's the thing.
That's not a lot of cities and that's a lot of money.
That's what I mean. 3 cities. Now, when I say it's the world's economy that's being affected, that's because I saw that they're planning an event in London.
There you go.
So that $250 million isn't in London; it's just in the United States. One of them, part of that, $120 million of that $250 million, is from that the Chicago Pokemon Go Fest, and that didn't go so well.
No.
Which stunk. Wait, that was in 2017 though. Wait, I gotta read this again. I've been like I said, this week I was sick, so I read that article. I was like, oh
Yeah, it says
well.
2017 right there.
Yeah. So I don't know. Read the article down below because again, I was sick this week, so I was reading these articles like, wow. But yeah,
The one in they're thinking a Harry Potter Wizards Unite will like kind of do the same thing in Liverpool.
Yeah. But that's the thing is that like across 3 cities, you know, the live events have spoken with $250 million in tourism.
They're basically just saying that it looks like apps like these and events like these are helping more than hurting than people would like to think.
So I want to read this statement before I move on. Saying this, Niantic has greatly improved its live events infrastructure in the years since, talking about the Chicago, which was a nightmare. Oh my goodness, that was just woo. And its events now go off largely without any issues. Okay. Another Pokemon Go Fest, this one in the German city of Dortmund. That's what I read. Go at 'em.
Good job, hon.
Drew even more players last year, totaling more than 86,000 attendees. Although it ultimately generated just under 60 million in tourism revenue, Niantic said. So Pokemon Go still, to this day, since its launch in 2016, is affecting the world positively.
Yep.
Whether you think the game is annoying or not, it's having positive effects. First, when it first came out, it actually got people outside.
Yeah.
That was the first positive effect. And now it's, 4 years later almost, in summer of this year, 4 years later, it's affecting the economy in a positive way.
Yeah. And I think it's also nice that you also see all these stories of like, it also helps, it brings relationships together, like couples and parents and their children. And like you see all the time, like a dad with his kid or something like that, or like a whole family is out playing Pokemon Go together. And I just think that's awesome. And so, I mean, even whether you like these games or not, whether you like video games or you're against them or not, like you can't deny this information. It's there.
So good on Pokemon Go. I think I'll end it there because clearly my sick brain didn't read this article right. And I'm just reading it on the spot like, oh, wow.
This is interesting.
But
we should make this gaming news.
Go at 'em. But yeah, so it's having positive effects. And look at that. A video game is actually having positive effects in America. Whether or not some people believe that or not, that video games have a positive effect, which brings us to our main topic. Because game devs actually aren't creeps that tell people to kill each other. So let's talk about that. Let's just move on. So this is our final segment. I'm actually going to give the transition and see if I can do it. So let's move on to our final segment. Oh, God. Okay. That gave me a headache. Talkie Time is a segment that really hurt my brain. I can't do this with the flu. Did you know Michael Jordan played a playoff game with the flu?
I think you have told me that, yes.
I heard that fact, and I'm like, freaking how?
When I had the flu the past 2 years, I was like dead to the earth.
Yeah.
I couldn't even, I remember there was one, like I literally could not move off the couch. Like it physically hurt my whole body to try and get off the couch.
Someday they'll be saying, Adam recorded a podcast with the flu.
You barely got the flu left.
I know. I'm on the healing stages, but
you had 2 days of like laying there like a dead body.
But I have like a massive headache all day. But anyways, okay, so back on track. Talkie Time is a segment that we talk about the, little gaming topics in the games industry, whether it be about female gamers or, game collections or even like what Nick DiPaolo talked about, breaking the mold of game development. So this week we want to talk about Bernie Sanders' comments on game developers. And we always like to define our conversation here on Games and Groceries before we even start the conversation. So Bernie Sanders. Not Bernie Sanders. Did I say Bernie Sanders?
I don't know if you said him the first time, but it's Joe Biden.
It's Joe Biden. Sorry, everybody.
Bernie Sanders has not commented on video games.
Feel the burn. So Joe Biden actually, sorry about that. Joe Biden went on New York Times to talk about a few things. I have, the article linked down below from Forbes magazine, but they also linked to the full interview, and I read, most of it. Joe Biden was like super defensive in this interview, like going like, he said that he's not being anti-millennial, but you read it and it's just like, yikes. Like,
yes, you are.
He's like, why should I be involved in millennials' troubles? And
because you want to be the president.
And read his comment, like just read the interview. It was very defensive.
To read it. I feel like it'll raise my blood pressure.
It was really weird how defensive he got. But then the Forbes magazine kind of highlights this, and it's in the interview section. But let me read this segment of the interview. So Joe Biden says this. Okay. And you may recall the criticism I got for meeting with the leaders of Silicon Valley when I was trying to work out an agreement dealing with them, protecting intellectual property for artists in the United States of America. And at one point, one of the little creeps sitting around the table, who was close to a billionaire, who told me he was an artist because he was able to come up with games to teach you how to kill people. Like video games? The interviewer says. Yeah, video games. Then one of the righteous people said to me that, we are the economic engine of America. We are the ones. And fortunately, I had done a little homework before I went, and I said, I find it fascinating. As I added up to the 7 outfits, everyone's there but Microsoft. I said, you have fewer people on your payroll than all the losses that General Motors have faced in the last quarter of employees. So don't lecture me about how you created all this employment. The point is, there's an arrogance about it, an overwhelming arrogance that we are the ones. We can do what we want. I disagree. So what Joe Biden is basically saying is that he doesn't feel that game developers are actually anything to do with the economic force that America is currently having right now. Even though it's been proven that video games are actually topping the movie industry right now, like by like an avalanche.
Yeah.
And he's then saying that let me read that one statement. Pointing at one point, one of the little creeps sitting around the table.
That's not language you use when you want to be president, sir.
Yeah. What do you think about that? I think that's the first time you saw that statement.
That is the first time I saw like the full statement. Like you told me like, oh yeah, he said this. And I was like, oh, what a jerk. And then I saw it like written out, like his actual words, the way he said it. I'm just like, it like hurts me and it like kind of breaks my heart.
Yeah.
To think that like someone thinks this way. And I know tons of people do, but to see it written out word for word of what he said and seeing it, it's just like, why are people so negative? And why little creeps? Like why do you need to use that language? Why can't you just say one of those people? Like, yeah, that's not nice either. But little creeps, like,
yeah,
it's like, it's just hurtful and it's unnecessary. And for someone who wants to be president, thinking that he doesn't need to concern himself with that group of people, we're a pretty big group of people. And it's just, it's disappointing to see in an adult who's lived as long as he has, lived through as much as he has, and just to have that attitude. It's just disappointing and like kind of hurtful. Like I don't know why, but I feel like kind of hurt by everything he just said. And I'm not even a developer, I'm just part of the gaming community, and it's just disappointing.
Now,
and he definitely lost my vote.
Dang. Now we're not trying to get political here, but this is actually, again, whenever I say this, that one person's opinion, this isn't just one person's opinion. A lot of different older politicians have this same view.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I said, I know a ton of people have this idea. It's just he said it.
Yeah.
He said it in an interview with New York Times.
Now, here's the other argument. He said that part of his argument was like, you know what? You actually don't matter because you have less employees than GM actually lost. Now, I Googled this just to make sure I'm right, and I was. So the video game Rise, okay, let's put this in perspective. The video game Rise has come out since, let's be generous here, 1985. You know, give or take, could be 1980, could be 1987, but, you know, let's say 1985. The video game industry really took a boom. And we're already above the movie industry, and we're creating economics, and we're creating jobs, right? And he says, well, GM has more employees. Well, here's the other thing. GM, General Motors, has been around for, 111 years.
Yep.
Since 1908. So yeah, they have more employees.
We haven't even had video games that long.
Exactly. They've been around since 1908. Okay, put this in perspective. They've been around since the First World War. Like, they've been around since
we haven't
World
even
War
had
I.
movies that long.
When was the first airplane invented?
Just that basically we're saying that there's a lot of things that haven't been around that long that of course would have.
It's been around since Betty White.
No, that's before Betty White.
Yeah, that's what I said. But that's the thing, is that like he has this argument that they have less employees than GM,
Yeah,
but
like that's not a good
stupid argument.
That's a horrible argument.
Now, this is all for concern, though, when he's calling that game developers are creeps, trying to tell people that all video games are trying to do is teach people how to kill, is because he's up for office. And once again, I want to reiterate that this is not a Joe Biden exclusive like thought process. In fact,
like a lot of people think this way.
Yeah. In fact, the article linked down below from Forbes also states that Trump, who is currently in office, and again, this isn't like a, hey, buddy, come here. This isn't like a political stance or anything, but Trump has also blamed video games for shootings. Wrongfully so.
A lot of people do. Anytime there's a shooting, people blame video games.
Now, this is the thing, is that I'm not trying to say that Joe Biden doesn't deserve it. I'm not trying to say that. I don't care. I really don't care who you vote for.
Yeah, we really don't.
But you should really focus in on what the belief systems each politician has, because these people are going into office and they will play out. Again, this statement was taken after his thought process of Article 203, which basically says, that governments can have a say in, what goes on in intellectual properties, that governments will have control over this. Like what Joe Biden says in his last statement, the point is there's an arrogance about it, an overwhelming arrogance that we are the ones. We can do what we want to do. And he says, I disagree, meaning that he wants governments involved in every single part of video games. And if his belief system is that all video games cause violence, all video games, including Oxenfree, including
Mario Kart,
including like any game. In fact, we did a midweek. We're going to be doing a midweek speak soon of what your thoughts are on your favorite non-violent video games. But that's what he believes video games are. And this is cause for concern because they believe that game developers are creeps.
Yeah.
And it's really not. They are artists. They are.
Yeah. I just want to say, because this has been on my mind since he said somewhere in there that it's like teaching them how to kill and everything like that. Saying that a video game with guns is teaching someone how to shoot is like saying Mario Kart is teaching how to drive. And last I checked, I'm terrible at Mario Kart, but I'm a perfectly fine driver. I've never gotten in an accident. I've never driven off the road and off a cliff. So I just want to put that in there. I'm good now. You know
what's funny though?
What?
When he said that, it reminded me when the game Watch Dogs came out. Do you remember this?
No, I don't.
When the game Watch Dogs came out, there were actually news reports, and I'm dead serious. Did you? they actually said that Watch Dogs will teach kids how to hack.
Yes. I do remember that. I was like, that's
What?
This isn't Jumpstart. These aren't the Jumpstart games that we played growing up. It's not like it's not the same as when those taught us how to do math and read. That's not how these video games work.
Like if you play Watch Dogs, like
playing Rock Band is not going to teach you how to play the drums or the guitar.
Yeah. No.
It's not how any of this works.
But that's the thing, is that like it doesn't teach you how to kill, just like Watch Dogs doesn't teach you how to hack. You dummy. But
this like makes my blood boil. Like, it's just insane that people think this.
Now what Joe Biden also doesn't okay, I should stop using Joe Biden's name.
Well, he's the one that said it.
Yeah.
So it
but
makes sense.
We should, come up with like everybody, like old boomers. Let's just say old boomers. But old boomer politicians. I'm not going to say that. That's so hateful.
It is. I hate that word.
Okay, boomer. But
Ugh.
but what these politicians don't realize, and they're saying like, oh, they think they're artists. Okay, let's go on the game developer's side here, because we are on game developer's side here. If they do believe that they're artists, what they don't understand about art in general, whether it be about painting art, movie direction being an art, video games being an art. And we talked about this in our earliest episodes. Video games are an art. If you want to go back to that episode and listen to it, please don't. But what they don't realize is that art always reflects real-time events.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the Renaissance was really coming out. Like Renaissance art was reflecting real-time events.
Yeah.
And you can actually tell from art, like the reason why we need to respect art in museums so well is because they are a defining point in history.
Yeah.
Where we can actually look into the eyes of an artist and see how the world was like, because art, again, reflects real-time events. Now, when Joe Biden says, or any boomer politician, when any like older politician says that, oh, video games just have gun violence, video games just have this and that. You know what was happening when Call of Duty was really taking a rise? When Modern Warfare, the very first one, really came out in 2006, 2007. Oh, what was happening? Little thing called the Iraqi War.
Yeah.
We were living in a time of warfare at that time. And what artists were doing, especially, games like Gears of War, all these games were kind of reflecting real-time events, and the early 2000s were a time of serious, crucial war.
Mm-hmm.
And video game developers who are, let's say it together now, artists, were actually reflecting real-time events.
Yeah.
And that's what he doesn't understand, is that like, oh, it's all about gun violence. Well, here's the thing. Yeah. Because right now we're living in a time of war. Now, I've always wanted to do an episode about this, but I've wanted to like really put in a time for research, because I didn't want to just like say what I thought.
Mm-hmm. But
now it's kind of too late because it's already happening now. I'm talking about, I wanted to do this before, like in our episode 40s.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do an episode like why we're going to see a rise in sci-fi games, because what's happening right now in 2020, we have rising stars, stupid Adam, Elon Musk, Neil deGrasse Tyson, flat earthers, rising stars like them. And it's all about, SpaceX and all this. Like our eyes are on the stars right now.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing a rise in sci-fi games.
Mm-hmm.
Like
sci-fi movies.
And sci-fi movies. You got games like Starfield. Mass Effect is probably getting a release in 2020. Mm-hmm. We're having a lot of like space-like games. It's because artists, like game developers, are reflecting real-time events.
Yeah.
And that's, people are, generally into space because, math is related to science and blah, blah, blah. Do you know that meme? Is math related to science?
Yes.
Yeah, with Katy Perry.
Yes.
That was funny.
That's an old one.
It is an old one. It's an oldie but a goldie. What do you think about that? About my very deep statement about art?
I think it's true. And if anything, even if it's not that they're like reflecting on what's going on around them, they're saying, this is what everyone's talking about right now. This is what everyone is thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be naturally drawn to a game that also fits that. If everyone's talking about sci-fi things,
Yeah.
the customers, even if you're talking about teenagers,
Yeah.
they're going to be naturally, subconsciously drawn towards that game because that's where their minds are right now.
Yeah.
And I'm still on the violence comment.
Yeah.
There's like tons of games that literally have no violence in them.
Let me read that statement again. At one point, one of the little creeps sitting around the table, who was a multi close to a billionaire, who told me he was an artist because... Here's the stupid thing. You know he misquoted him.
Oh, yeah.
Who told me he was an artist because he was able to come up with games to teach you how to kill people.
Teach you. How does a game teach you? You want to know? I had an actual person teaching me how to do archery, and I still didn't hit the bullseye. So I really doubt a game where there are guns will teach me how to use a gun.
You know what would be hilarious?
What?
Is if the little creep... I want to know who the little creep is. I really, 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 really do. Because what if the little creep he was talking about that comes up with games that teach you how to kill people, what if that was Cory Barlog with God of War? That would be so funny.
That'd be hilarious.
Because that was the most emotional roller coaster that's ever come to be. And all Joe Biden sees is like...
There were no guns in that.
There were no guns, but there was a lot of violence in God of War. But that's the thing. I would like to know who this little creep is. Because watch it be...
I want to know if Joe Biden has ever played Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Or, like, he has grandkids, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, because in his interview, he talks about how his granddaughter, how he doesn't care about your student loans because, his granddaughter made it, so should you.
Her grandfather was the vice president of the United States. Of course she doesn't have to worry about student loans.
Well, we're not talking about that.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's a whole other...
You should really read the interview.
No, because you know how high my blood pressure will go? You'll find me at home dead on the floor.
Yeah.
I'll just go...
Wow. Wow.
You don't want me to read that article.
But here's the thing, though, is that, like, we're coming into election season. And this is the thing. This is crucial. And again, I'm really, really, really not trying to say that you shouldn't vote for... Because guess what? We live in America.
Vote for
freedom.
Whoever you want.
I don't care. Write in your vote for Harambe again. Please don't do that. That was a waste of a vote.
Don't do that.
They thought my vote for Jill Stein was a waste of a vote. Guess what? There were write-ins for Harambe.
That was hilarious.
That's a waste of a vote. Anyways, but here's the thing. I'm not trying to say that, don't vote for Joe Biden. I don't care. I really don't. But what I do care about is that putting research into your politician before you vote. And if his belief system is saying that like every single video game to ever come out is violent,
not just violent, but teaches you how to be violent.
And he calls all game developers little creeps. There's a misunderstanding of what video games are in the mainstream. And there's sort of this idea of arrogance behind this, and it's really not. All they were just trying to say is that, like, listen, we've got this economic boom here in America. And I wonder if he was talking to Andrew Wilson, because he is a little creep. But anyways, that's the thing, is that, like, he wants government control over this. And I'm not going to say it because I did put it in my notes. I'm going to say it anyway because I got sick brain. China also has this kind of control over the media, right? China does have their say in this, in certain parts where what can come out, what is banned, blah, blah, blah. And that's not a good state to live. Like, we live in a free country, And, you have the right to consume what you want to consume. And that's just it, But if they put it against the law to or have lawful restrictions to this. Now, again, I'm not a political person, that's not my main frame.
We don't do much research.
So I might be talking out of my, keister here. But what I am seeing is that, like, this isn't Joe Biden's exclusive thought process. Many different, like, older politicians have this.
I wouldn't be surprised if a couple people running for this, for the office, had this idea. My thing is, which first I want to say that it's funny that Joe Biden thinks that video games make you violent when he is the one making me feel violent. Anyway.
Video games don't make me violent. Joe Biden does.
He does. He's making me feel very violent. Anyway,
print out a t-shirt.
I just really, oh my gosh, I am now.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah,
if we sold merch, it would definitely be going on a shirt.
Wow. Yeah, we're not trying to sway your votes now.
No. But what I was going to say before that was that I was talking to you about this, how I just feel like politicians, when they say things like this, I don't think, like, you're saying, like, oh, we need to do our research on them, but they need to do their research on us too, because...
Yeah. Not like what Joe Biden did, where he's like, I did some research.
Yeah, like, the research that they need to do is see who's making up their votes.
Yeah.
Our generation is starting to play a huge part in votes. And because they're making it more and more, they want our generation to vote more. They want us to make the majority. But a good chunk of us all play video games.
Yeah.
And saying things like this, he could have said this and said it nicer, and he wouldn't, and it probably wouldn't bother me as much. It's the words he used to express his opinion that makes me angry. Yeah. And if he knows who his voters are, which I'm sure there are voters, and a good chunk of his voters who are older and do agree with him, but we're still a big chunk of voters, and he just lost a bunch of us. Yeah. By using those words and having that mindset. And if people really want the votes of the younger generation, they're going to have to also start understanding our standpoints and where we are. I'm really trying not to get political, and I'm usually not a political person. But when it comes to personal things like this, like student loans, video games, art, don't get me started.
Exactly.
You really shouldn't, because I get very passionate about this stuff. And I'm kind of, like I said in the very beginning, I'm really just not happy with the words he used, because those were hurtful and unnecessary. I'm done.
So I just want to close out this conversation that there is still hope for us gamers, gamer girls out here. There's still hope, because here's the thing. I mentioned this in the beginning of the podcast, that GM has been around for 111 years. And video games have been around since 1985. Okay, arguments aside, they've been around longer than that, Adam. Ha ha ha. But 1985 was like the rise, give or take. Okay? Yeah. There will come a day when video games are respected in the same way as screenwriters are, or as artists are, like painters or modern artists. Because our generation will rise up in age, and
pretty much
we will have this perspective of game developers are actually really good artists, and these people will say, like, okay, game development is an actual thing, just like you see skateboarding. Okay, here's the other thing. Skateboarding is being so respected, whereas in the early 2000s skateboarding was seen as just like punk rock kids, just no good trouble, and now it's in the Olympics. Skateboarding is in the Olympics, people.
I think video games will start to be taken more seriously when our generation are the ones holding major offices. Yeah. And that's the thing. We all grew up with video games. And so when we're in major offices, we're not going to think that hard on. Like, even people in our age group who don't play video games, they don't think of them in such a horrible light. They might not agree with them, they might not like them, but I don't think they'll judge them as harshly as the older generation does currently.
So what I'm trying to say, and before I say this, just want to make sure that he can. Oh, good. Nice. For some reason, I thought, differently. So what I'm trying to say by the end of this podcast is Cory Barlog for president 2024. I looked it up and I
wanted to make sure he was born in America.
Yeah, because for some reason I thought he was born in Sweden. I don't know why.
You always have that sneaky Canadian.
You got that sneaky Canadian.
You got those Canadians who are like, wow, didn't know they were born in Canada.
Yeah. You little sneaky. But yeah, Cory Barlog, president 2024. That's what I'm trying to say in this podcast. But that's the thing, is that there will come a day. I think there's still hope. I don't think we should always be worried that this is always going to be the thing for video games. No. It's just that it just hasn't been around long enough for it to have the respect that it deserves. So, but yeah, I think we can close off on that as the.
I'm not even going to bother turning that back on.
Yeah. So,
sorry, you're going to have the Please Stand By coming up right now
on YouTube
because there's no point in turning the camera off when we're closing.
Yeah, but yeah, let's just close this off. But yeah, we want to read all of your comments down below. This could be a divisive talk. I understand that politics are divisive, which is why we kind of.
Sorry if we raised your blood pressure.
This is why we kind of steer away from it, because we want a more neutral stance so that conversation can be had. Mm-hmm. But if you agree or disagree, we want to hear it all in comments down below. What are your thoughts about Joe Biden's statements? Do you think he was right? Do you think he was wrong? We want to hear all of it in comments down below. And if you haven't yet, definitely hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so that you know when all of these podcasts come out on YouTube. And if you're listening to us on iTunes or any other audio interface, including Radio Public, which directly helps the show out, definitely subscribe to those so that you know when all these podcasts come out. And if you enjoyed this episode, definitely give it a like, definitely give it a share so that more people can know about these podcasts. So with all that said and done, we thank you for listening to this week's episode. We will see you next week. Have a great week.
Bye.